Good morning, everybody. If you can see me or can hear me, why don't you go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a wave or something, if you know how to do that. If not, we're just going to assume that you're connected. Starting our convention for this year, I'm Jared Taylor. I am the president of the Utah Beekeepers Association. We are broadcasting today from the Utah Law and Justice Center in Salt Lake City, Utah. Getting started today, I'd like to thank a few people. First of all, the Utah Law and Justice Center for allowing us to be here. David Clark, he's the IT tech for the Utah Law and Justice Center. He is actually taking care of all our needs here today, making sure that this gets streamed to everybody. Also, Blaine Nay, he's our webmaster for our association page. He's the one that's getting all those emails out to everybody. He's keeping the web page updated almost daily. We'd also like to thank Jim Retallick. He is the director of on our board. He's helped put a lot of this convention together today, and thank him for all that he's done. Also, Doug Hawks, he's a director and also our treasurer. He makes sure that all our bills are paid. Martin James, he's a director. He's helped organize this as well. And then we also have Michael Stevenson and Brian Stevens, our past president and our president-elect. And then last but not least, but Mandy Taylor, our secretary. As we start today, our first speaker said that he was having some technical difficulties, so I figured I would try to stall for a minute or two while he gets his internet taken care of. One thing that I want to talk about first thing this morning is the different social media pages there are out. There's a lot of them on beekeeping, beekeeping practices, and different things. I've been subscribed to a lot of those Facebook pages and media posts. It's been interesting to see the comments on some of those posts that get put up there. I like to tell everybody, thank you for the good comments, the positivity on those comments, and being a good citizen. These Facebook pages and Instagram pages, social media pages, a lot of times you'll see a lot of those comments are very negative. But I like to thank those that are putting up good comments and good questions and reaching out to one another and building a friendship in the beekeeping world. Thank you for all that you do there. The next thing that I want to kind of talk about for a second is our beekeeping yards. I've been through several different yards this summer, this fall, talking with different beekeepers, helping them do some inspections. And one thing that I want to bring up is keeping our yards clean. There are several yards I've been to where there's trash blowing around, there's dead bee boxes upside down, frames thrown out everywhere. Just take a few minutes and see if we can keep those yards cleaned up. We're representing the beekeeping world to everybody that sees our yards. A lot of times those may be behind locked gates or somewhere. Keep them clean. The owners, the property that we're on, it shows a big high level of respect to them, that making sure that we are clean. And the other part of that is if we're keeping the yard clean, we're keeping the disease from spreading. I know throughout the state there are different bee yards just within short distances of each other. We don't want to have a robbing incident where those bees are carrying disease back and forth and spreading that. So that'd be one good way to help slow the flow of disease. Has anybody heard from Joey yet, if he's been able to get on, our first speaker?
Haven't heard. Thinking about that.
Okay, he's still working on getting his internet going. As you can see behind me, our whole board for the Utah Beekeeper Association is here today, making sure that everything goes good. If at any point that you have any questions that you want to bring up, we have a link. Blaine, what's that link for questions people can email them to?
Just call me on my phone.
You can,
send me a text.
You can call Blaine on his phone. That's listed on the UBA.Wild Epcot website. It's on there. Or if you want to send a message up on the Zoom, there's a little spot that says chat. If you click up on there, we will try to watch those and answer those questions as they come in. Anybody else got anything to bring up today before we get rolling along?
No, just to let them know that there was an email sent out last night for the test broadcast, so those who wanted to can jump in. On that email, there's 2 other cell phone numbers that we ask you to text, or you can email me, Jim Ritalik, jritalik58@gmail.com, and we're monitoring all this, so we make sure everybody's connected.
Thank you, Jim. If we can get Joey Caputo on, he is from the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. He kind of oversees all of us beekeepers. He's been a great hand in helping solve problems and issues, helping with inspections. He's going to give kind of a state of the bees address if we can get him on. Following his remarks, one of our highlight guest speakers will be Randy Oliver with the scientific beekeeping. His first topic will be understanding Varroa management strategy and techniques. Now, if you're looking for our outline for today, you can find that at uba.wildapricot.org. It's on there, and we will be following that agenda. After Randy's remarks, we'll have a short break, and then we'll go into Dr. Thomas D. Seeley on how a honeybee swarm chooses its home. When he's done speaking, that will go up to about 11:25. We will be taking a lunch break then. During our breaks, we have some advertisements that we will have running continuously. We'd like to thank those that had put those little advertisements together. Take time to look at their products, because they've been a big support to our organization in getting us going this week. Other than that, I think if we can get Joey on,
Take a recess till he's ready.
we'll just take a recess, and then as soon as he's on, yeah, we'll run some commercials. As soon as he's on, we'll bring him live to you guys. Thank you. pull him on and let's just get him going.
Okay, I'll tell him. So,
Okay, Joey, can you hear us? Looks like he's still
Yes,
muted.
I can.
There you go. Okay, you are on, buddy.
All right. Well, first of all, before I start the presentation, I just want to tell you thank you so much for the invitation to this. It's always an honor to speak to this organization. And we have a lot of exciting things to report to you this year. I also wanted to note for people that maybe didn't know this already, but Steven Stanko has moved on to the private sector, and we are very happy for him on his new career path. We are planning on replacing him, and that job actually was posted yesterday on the state jobs board. Something that many people probably don't know about Steven is that he, with his own bare hands, built a molecular diagnostics lab here at Department of Agriculture. And that just greatly improved our testing capabilities. Before that time, we had to send these samples out to a lab on the East Coast, and it took sometimes weeks, if not months, to get results back. And now that we have that testing capability in-house, we can get test results back to people as soon as 24 hours. We try to get it within 2 to 3 working days, but we can get it done that quickly. And I'll note that the results are more accurate than what we had before as well. So that's a great legacy that Steven leaves all of us. However, it's also a gap that we have to fill. So the person that we will be hiring to replace him, we will be needing them to have a molecular biology background. If there's anyone here who's watching and is interested or knows somebody that is interested, please visit the Utah State Jobs Board, and you can filter the job searches by Department of Ag, and you can find that posting there. It'll be open for the next 2 weeks, and it would be great to hire someone local, but we've actually put this job posting out nationally because we just want to make sure that we get the best replacement possible. I told Steven we're not going to be able to replace him, but we will find somebody to do his work. So we're going to try and get somebody that can do that. All right. Well, without further ado, I've got a presentation here for you. It says that host has disabled participant screen sharing.
We're getting that going, Joey. Hang in there.
No problem. All right. Does everybody see that? All right. Great. All right. So basically what I have to report here are the work that Steven and myself did, the state inspectors, as well as some of the work that the county inspectors did, as well as kind of plans for this coming year. First, I wanted to give a plug for registration. If you haven't had a chance to register yet, I would encourage you to do so. There are many benefits to registration, including our on-demand health inspection service. So if you have a pest or disease concern, you can call one of us out here to help you troubleshoot that. We also have, as I mentioned, our state-of-the-art testing services. These are available to you for American and European foul brood testing. I should note also we do test for nosema disease, and we dissect the bees for tracheal mite as well, if those are concerns to you. We also offer health certification. So if you are moving bees to a different state and they require that you're certified free of American foul brood or some other disease or pest, we can provide that to you. And then we also have our disease and pest alerts. So that letter in the background, many of you who are registered may have gotten those in the past. That basically alerts you that American foul brood was detected by our program in your area. And so you can, inspect your hives, take whatever measures necessary to protect yourself. And we also do our statewide pest alerts. So we've got our Varroa mite postcard right there. So depending on the size of the apiary you run, it runs between $10 and $50. I guarantee you get more money out of it than you called an electrician or a plumber lately. You're in, $60 just to see the guy. So I feel like it's a great value. All right. So as far as registrations for 2020, we had 1,641 beekeepers. You can see that there continues to be a large number of beekeepers along the Wasatch Front by these little black dots, but rural Utah is represented as well. If you can see all these dots lining these areas here. So these are state inspections. This is what Stephen and I did. We looked at 164 operations, 1,092 hives in 17 counties. And you can just kind of see on this chart if your county was included in that. If your county's not included in that, got to give us a call. From those inspections, we found 21 hives that were infected with American foul brood disease, 39 cases of European foul brood. I can't see because this is blocking. 93 cases of parasitic mite syndrome, and 74 cases of deformed wing virus, and 20 cases of chalk brood. For the American foul brood, we work with the beekeepers to, devise a strategy to correct that situation, and we alerted beekeepers in the within 2 miles of where we found those. And then this is what our county inspectors did. So they checked out 227 operations, 1,069 hives. They found 3 cases of American foul brood, 40 cases of European foul brood, 74 cases of parasitic mite syndrome, and 7 cases of chalk brood. Okay, so I know this is here's our foul brood map. So this is basically where foul brood was detected last year, and the little stars you can see here. And I know this is always of interest to me. We find foul brood every year, but what percentage of hives are we finding it in? That's the most relevant information. And the news is certainly better than it was in 2017 when approximately 4% of hives that we inspected were found with American foul brood. And we think that spike had a lot to do with the changes in regulations on antibiotic distribution, the FDA's new regulations. Luckily, in the recent years, we've been able to bring that down a little bit. So we are at approximately 1.9% last year of colonies inspected for American foul brood, and then a little above 3.5% for European foul brood. So, we like it to be below 1%, but 2% is not bad. We're just going to keep, educating folks and working with them, and we'll hopefully keep it kind of in that range, if not lower. Okay, as I mentioned, we sent out our Varroa mite postcard to all registered beekeepers. And this was basically encouraging them to monitor for Varroa mites twice a month between the months of August and October, and to treat so that the Varroa mite population does not exceed 2% of the honeybee population during that time. And we noted that 1 treatment cycle may not be enough. And this is basically what the Varroa mite levels were for last year. So the red line that you're looking at, that's the percentage of mite infestation in all colonies, whether they had mites or not. So this is the average of those measurements. And then the blue line is basically the average of mites that were found in colonies that did have mites. So this is excluding the hives that did not have mites. So you'll notice it's a little higher than the red line, and that makes sense because we're excluding the hives that don't have mites. So based on this, if we're factoring in the error bars, it's possible that the mites were above that 2% threshold even in June of this year. But that's just based on the error bars. What we can kind of tell for certain with this is that the mites were too high by August, and that's because the lower end of that error bar was basically at 2%. And then September and October were too high as well. So I did want to point out, though, this is better than in recent years. And I want to credit this association. I want to credit the bee clubs, Utah State University Extension. I think everybody's been doing a lot on Varroa mite education and teaching people how to treat mites and all of that. However, based on our detections of parasitic mite syndrome, as you saw both in state inspections and county inspections, that continues to be our biggest problem, the most numerous malady that we find. And I believe it's because we are still too high in these months of August, September, and October. But without getting people discouraged, I did want to show you, just overlay some of the past years with the error bars so that you can see that we are making improvement. So, oops, sorry about that, went in the wrong direction. Okay, so this was 2016. That was probably the worst Varroa mite year on record. You can see this is basically the data line, but then this block here is meant to symbolize the error bars. 2017, the error bar is really big here because the number of samples that we took was much fewer. But nonetheless, even at the bottom end of the error bar, you can see that we were still higher than where we were in 2019 or 2020. This was 2018. And then this was last year. And that last year is when we really started pushing, Varroa mite education. And I think, based on the data we've collected this year, 2020 and 2019 is about the same. But what I would really like to see is we could get those averages in these late summer and early fall months even lower. So we will be sending out our postcard again. However, we are going to change the guidance just a little bit. We've note that you should be monitoring and treating as many times as necessary during these months. But I think one of the shortcomings in this strategy is that some people have not taken to monitoring very well. So there may be treating in August just based on our recommendations, or September or whatever. So what we're going to recommend is that if you do not plan on monitoring at least bi-monthly in these months, you should just treat in all of those months. So you should treat one treatment after another and change up the treatment. So for instance, you do Apivar in August, you do Apigard in September, and then you do Mite Away Quick Strips or Formic Pro in October. And why we're going to be suggesting that is if you're not measuring, you need to assume that your apiary is in the statewide average, which is too high. So we're hoping that will just push us a little bit more forward, and we can get these mites down even further and help improve our annual losses. So, and I know people are doing a lot of good work on mites, trying really hard. One of the things that's come up is Amitraz working? And we've been talking to this Dr. Frank Rinkovic, who is with USDA, and he has been tracking Amitraz resistance in Varroa mites, and he has found evidence of it. And unfortunately, though, none of his data is from Utah. We don't have any samples from Utah. So I know people are treating with Amitraz and they're saying it's not working, but we'd like to get confirmation of that. So if you believe that you've treated and it hasn't worked, or you've treated in the past and it hasn't worked, please reach out to him. Unfortunately, it's only open to beekeepers that run 200 or more colonies. But basically, he will send you a kit that you can test with, and there is a little bit of protocol involved in this. So myself or one of the county inspectors, we would be happy to come out and help you with this, because I think it's very important that we get an answer about this. Please just reach out to him or reach out to us if you believe this is a problem. We also participated in the National Honeybee Survey. So many of you have participated in this, but for those who haven't, this is basically assessing colony health nationally, but on a state level as well. It's also a biosecurity effort. So you'll see on this left picture, there's the Varroa mite on the left, and on the right is the Tropolilops mite. So the Tropolilops mite is basically a mite that we don't have in the United States, but just like Varroa mite, which is exotic, it could end up here. And so this survey is helping to track that. And, it's too bad we didn't have a national honeybee survey in the 80s. And, it's perhaps we might have caught Varroa mite earlier and we could have done something about it. It's also looking for exotic honeybee genetics. So you'll see the giant honeybee up top, the European honeybee in the middle, and the Asiatic honeybee below. And people, wonder, well, what's the problem with that? If we had an exotic bee that was imported, well, one, they can carry diseases or pests that we don't want, just like Varroa mite and Tropolilops. And then if they're interbreeding, it may result in inferior honey production. So we don't want these exotic honeybees here. If you want to check out the results of the National Honeybee Survey, it's actually really neat. You can look up individual states and see basically what Varroa mite loads looked like for specific years. Our data goes back to 2011. Nosema, you can look up pesticide data. That's the website, research.beeinformed.org/state_reports. It's really a good resource. We also did some work on our pollinator protection efforts, best use pesticide education. So you'll see Stephen there actually presented to the Utah Nursery and Landscape Association, their conference, and that's a big conference. There's thousands of people that go to that. It's actually at the Southtown Expo Center in Sandy. So we had a huge crowd for this, and basically teaching these folks that work in the nursery and landscape trades how to apply pesticides in a way that does not expose bees. We also did a training of a private pesticide applicating company. But unfortunately with COVID, the opportunities for doing further work on that weren't great last year. So those were the two that we did. We also redesigned our MP3 guidance and education material. There were a number of beekeepers and also just members of the public that thought that our previous materials were maybe presented a little too much information and just could have been presented in a simpler way. So we updated those, and as usual, we put these in IFA stores in the pesticide aisle all over the state, both at their ag centers and their retail centers. And I've had a lot of questions about Asian giant hornet. It is something that we are concerned about and something that we've monitored. Last year we had 50 reported sightings. We investigated all of those sightings to the fullest extent possible. So there was kind of a range in the quality of information people had. In some cases, they had actual specimens that they could give us. In other cases, they had maybe photos. There were a few people that just called me and said, I was driving an I-15 and I was passing Payson and I swear I saw it. We couldn't really do much with that. If you're going 70 miles per hour on a freeway and you see an insect, that doesn't really help us too much. But with everyone that had something to give us, we did investigate all of those, and we did not find any confirmed cases. This is actually a picture of the Asian giant hornet, and I'm sure people know about this, but it's a pest of people, but it's also a pest of honeybees. I will note, however, though, one of the people that did bring forward a specimen to us brought forward this. And that's an actual photo of the specimen we took. This was taken by our lab tech, Sarah Schulteis, who's an excellent insect photographer. They basically ordered a package. I believe they ordered some clothing and online, and it came directly from China. And in that package was one of these dead Asian hornets. So this is not the Asian giant hornet, but it is Asian hornet. And we actually looked into this insect a little bit, and it's not in the United States, and it actually is a honeybee pest as well. Now, we were really lucky because this was just in a package and it was dead. And so, we don't think that we've got Asian hornet, establishment risk or anything like that. But the reason I pointed it out is that we don't want people to be reluctant to bring forward any sort of sightings or instances where they think they found something. We don't want them to think like, oh gosh, if I turn that in and it's not going to be right, it's going to be embarrassing. Most of the specimens we got turned out to be like horntails or cicada killers or, just regular wasps. But this one, in fact, turned out to be something that was of concern. And we basically forwarded this specimen to USDA APHIS, Plant Protection and Quarantine. And they are taking the steps to contact this company and say, hey, you've got something wrong with your biosecurity protocols. You're sending, they may be dead, but you're sending us insects that are not good for agricultural systems in this country. And so they're following up on that and trying to close that potential pathway. So, we ask people to be vigilant. If they see something, bring it to our attention. There's nothing wrong with bringing something to us and it not turn out to be what we think it is. We'd rather you err on the side of bringing it to our attention. I did find some comfort in this. This was a paper that was published published last year. One of the authors is an entomologist that we've worked with, Dr. Chris Looney. And this was basically a suitability model for Asian giant hornet. And in the yellow kind of indicates the climate that's the most suitable for the hornet. And then blue indicates where people are. And then this purple is the overlap. So it's basically, this map is kind of demonstrating where can Asian giant hornet establish and where is that in proximity to people. And, as you can see from this diagram, this picture, there's a lot of establishment risk in Alaska, the Northwest, and then the Midwest and East. But I was really encouraged to see in Utah here, not a lot of establishment potential. That being said, we know these suitability models can be wrong. So we're still taking this very serious. If people think they see an Asian giant hornet, please collect a specimen, take a photo, whatever you can do. The more information, the better, and let us know about it. All right, so basically all this information I presented to you is on our yearly fact sheet. You can see our foul brood map on there. This can be found at our website. So this and much, much more, check out our website. And that is it. I did want to know, here's my contact information for anyone that wants it. We are going to be moving. We're moving from Salt Lake to Taylorsville, the new Taylorsville State Office building next year, and it's probably going to be in the fall. So if you are sending us samples for our lab, please call ahead to make sure that you're sending it to the right place. We are going to try and get things so that the mail is forwarded to the new building, but we'd rather you just send it to the right place in the first place. And that's it. Thank you very much. I don't know if we have time for questions or not. Let's see. Okay, let's see.
David?
Hello. Okay, so let's see. I do have one question here. If people treat every month without monitoring, won't this lead to mite resistance? If people don't monitor, will they really treat every month? So good question. That's one reason why we are saying, through those months, if you're not going to monitor, you should just assume that your mite levels are too high. Even if you do the treatment in August, you should assume that you're going to get reinfested because that's what our data is showing. But what we are suggesting is that you are changing which mite treatment that you are using. So don't use the same thing 3 months in a row. Use something different. So very good question. And then it looks like the follow-up was, if people don't monitor, will they really treat every month? Well, what I'm seeing, just at least anecdotally, is that people are not reluctant to treat these days. They're actually putting in treatments. But we are seeing that people are not necessarily monitoring. They're not doing alcohol washes afterward. Reinfested. So I think that the barrier we have here is the monitoring. And when people are not monitoring, they're not following up with subsequent treatments that are needed. So that's kind of where we're coming from on that. Any other questions? I'm looking at this chat. Let's see. You didn't mention oxalic acid. I'm not sure what they, let's see, that's from Brent. Brent, what question did you have about oxalic acid? Okay. Control. Okay, I mean, that's a pretty big topic. What I will just note is that, you know, if you're using OA vapor or you're using OA dribble, you know, you are getting some very specific control at a specific window. You're basically getting the phoretic mites while those products are in the hive, and then you're missing everything in between. And so, you know, they're always most effective if there's little brood rearing going on or there's no brood rearing going on. And so if you're going to be doing those, the suggestion is you do them, you know, later in the fall or earlier in the spring. And then we also have what types of treatment should be used. Well, as a state official, I'm just going to tell you all labeled treatments are what's available to you. So, you know, anything that you can buy at your local bee store or on Man Lake or wherever it may be, that's what my advice to you is you use labeled treatments. Okay.